we're live with Billy Amendola. This is PaulE. We are doing our live story. We go to 11. Those of you who've seen it before know the format. We have 11 questions. 10 of them are for Billy. One of them is for me. And we'll get started right away here with talking about Billy and can you tell me about where you were born and your upbringing and family?
Sure. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the show. Thank you for having me, Paul.
My pleasure.
I've been, I'm from Brooklyn, New York, born and raised. I'm sure you could tell from my accent that I'm a New York guy, and I'm happy to still live in Brooklyn, and that's where I am, born and raised, Brooklyn, New York. And you're in the UK, right?
Brooklyn. Yeah, I'm in the UK now. I was born actually in New Jersey, just outside of New York City. So my accent isn't as strong as it used to be, but I used to have the Jersey accent working. Now I've lived in so many places it's sort of neutralized a little bit.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I've lived all up and down the East Coast. I lived in California, New Mexico, London, South Africa, and now I'm living in Wiltshire, yeah, in the Cotswolds.
Nice. Sounds beautiful.
Yeah, it's cold right now, very cold.
Here in New York,
But okay, so now
we're actually having a nice warm weather the last few days, but it's coming. The cold is coming.
there you go. Yeah, I saw Buffalo got snowed in with about 4 feet.
No, I think they got even more than that, but yeah, thank God we didn't get any of that.
Crazy, crazy. So, okay, question number 2. What got you inspired to play drums, and who really inspires you to this day still to play drums?
Well, in my generation, like everyone else, I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. I mean, I was into music. I think my whole since I knew how to breathe. I guess my mom said and my dad saw in it that I was interested in music. But once I saw the Beatles, I was 7 years old, and I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. I just that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a different Beatle every day. And then of course I gravitated to the drums. So Ringo was a huge influence, as well as Dino Danelli and you know Hal Blaine, who I didn't realize played on hundreds of my favorite songs, and all the studio guys that I really didn't get to know till later on that were playing on all these records. But Ringo was the main inspiration, and I got to say to this day, Ringo is still my main inspiration. Over the years, I've gone through different guys, Billy Cobb and Dave Weckl at one point, and I got into all the chops and everything. But mostly, I'm a song guy, so Ringo, I have to say, is still my main influence.
Yeah, I think that I'm right along with you there. Now, I was a little early, I was a little young for that first show, but my first album was Revolver, and yeah, always loved Ringo's chops. Really, the great thing about the Beatles was the four of them. How they really brought something so much to the table, each one of them.
Yeah. I as a band, because I always wanted to be in a band because of the Beatles, and then later on, of course, I wanted to be a studio musician because I wanted to play on every song on the radio, like Hal. But to me, I always say it's the Beatles and then everyone else.
I'd have a hard time arguing with you. Yeah, again, the Beatles, you think of this short time span. I mean, all that stuff is less than 10 years. And you think of the amount of songs that, that they played on, and the albums, that are in, top 20s of almost everybody's list. It's really, the Beatles. Yeah. Yeah, that they've done it for me. I've always liked, we've got the Beatles and the Stones, and I always loved the longevity of the Stones and how they evolved through their guitar players. Um, but man, that little moment of time with the Beatles, the '60s of the Beatles, there is just, you can't top that.
Yeah, no, no. And you know what it is? If you think about it, the songs that they wrote were just, that's why they're classic and they're timeless, because the songs that they wrote to this day, no one has written any topic that they wrote about. No one has written a better song or has said it any clearer than the Beatles did. I mean, people come close, and that's the goal, to try to write a song that means something and that's going to last forever. But if you're writing about love, I mean, you're just not going to write a better song than the three Beatles that wrote, and Ringo, of course.
Yeah, I'm just finished watching that Get Back. I guess you would call it documentary that Peter Jackson put out. With them doing that, and you could really see, when Paul's like, "Oh, we've got hundreds of songs, that we never put out," and you just think of how many great ones they put out, and then thinking, boy, there's got to be some killer songs in the, in the basket there that we'll never hear. But yeah, that really opened me that, watching that documentary, really some good stuff. Let's talk a little bit more about Ringo, because you went to his birthday party recently. I know that. And unfortunately, I know that Ringo was on tour and he caught COVID. I think he caught it twice, didn't he?
He did. He was pretty good. He never had it, up until a couple of, a month or so ago. But he did great. He got through it, and he is the healthiest, most coolest person on the planet, and he turned 82 years old, which blows my mind. And I've been celebrating his birthday. I was fortunate enough to celebrate his birthday with him since he turned 70, pretty much every year since then. So 12 years I've been celebrating his birthday. And I tease him all the time. He looks younger and younger and better and better. And he's got so much energy. God bless him, really. I mean, God has blessed him. And it's just incredible. I mean, the guy is just the coolest guy on the planet. That's all I can say. It's a lot of fun to hang out with him, and it took a long time to get close to him, but it was worth the wait, because he's just amazing. There's nobody like Ringo or any of the Beatles, really.
No, only one Ringo. I was gonna say, I'm watching that Get Back thing. I think he looked a little bit older in the Get Back thing than he does now. Like I said, it doesn't seem like he's really aged since he started the Ringo's All Stars in, I think I saw him in '94 or even before that. But yeah,
the All Stars have been going a long time, boy. And I think I saw every single All Star show except for one. And then two of them I got to actually sit in and play percussion, so that was pretty cool. Two different occasions.
Wow. That's bucket list stuff right there, huh?
Yeah, that's that was pretty cool. And not only, I mean, of course I'm on with Ringo, but two different groups of All Stars. It was just it was a good 2 nights, 2 different nights in 2 different locations, so in 2 different years. So it's a great experience. I hope to do it again someday, but it was pretty good. Now I'm getting calls to play percussion on a lot of stuff. I played percussion my whole life, but after everybody saw me with Ringo, it was like, hey, you want to play percussion? Hey, you want to sit in and play percussion? Hey, can you play percussion on my record? Sure.
There you go. So Now let's go to another question there about your bands. All right, so Mantis was that your first band?
That wasn't that wasn't my first band. No, I was in bands since I was probably 10, 11 years old. I started, with friends in the neighborhood and grammar school friends who actually I'm still friends with to this day. But then I went through a couple of different bands, uh, playing block parties and playing high school dances. And then we started. Me and Frank DiVincenzo started a band called Gypsy, and from there we had Gypsy with a couple of different members over the years until the final lineup in '76 when we got Jimmy Mayer into the band. We became Mantis, and we were still playing rock music from '76 to probably late to '77, beginning of '78 is when we were playing a lot of top 40 stuff, which happened to be more disco. And if we wanted to keep working, we were playing a lot of lounges and clubs. And, we moved on from the block parties, and then we started traveling on the road, playing shows. And we just got a deal one night. Somebody came up. We were fooling around in the club playing some funk music, and somebody came up and said, hey, I have a small disco label. Can you guys write a disco song? Come to the studio, write a disco song. And we said, yeah, sure. So we went in, and they put that record out in Canada. It made a little noise. He came back and said, let's do another single. And we did another single, which was Dancing Freestyle. That went to #2 on the charts and stayed on the radio station at #2 for 8 weeks. Then we did an album, and we had another hit off of that album called Rocket to the Top. And we did all the, we were rock stars for a while. We flew places. We went to Europe. We had #1 records in Europe, and we traveled over there to do TV shows. We spent a week in Italy doing TV shows for all of Europe. And that gave us our second hit record, Rocket to the Top. And then we came home. We did a second album, which we kind of were having problems with the label. Everyone thought that we were an R&B group, and they wouldn't let us put our picture on the cover for the second album because they didn't want to blow the mystique of us being, not an R&B group. And people were surprised when we showed up. I remember Don Cornelius from Soul Train, he introduced us, and we played up in Harlem, and it was live on the radio. And we walked out after they introduced us, and they thought we were the roadies. They didn't realize we were the band because, 5 white guys from Brooklyn with long hair, and, nobody believed it was us until we played live. And, and then after the second album, we had one more hit, a song called Boogie to the Bop in 1980, which they still play to this day on all the dance stations. And that almost crossed over to pop, but then things were changing. Disco was dead, getting a bad word, even though disco is still very popular. And that was it. We rode the wave. We went back to playing rock and back to playing CBGBs and all the clubs that we played when we were a rock band. And then we all just went our separate ways, only because we all wanted to do different things. And that's when I got into studio work.
Brilliant. Wow, that sounds like a good run. You did everything, right? You did from rock to disco to punk to pop.
Yeah, it was a fun way for me to grow up because I was the youngest, and that was a great schooling for me to grow up that way. And sadly, last year, we lost our bass player because it was the original band all the way up until now. It's it's all the same guys, but we lost my bass player to cancer, and so it'll never be the same again. But we recorded a few songs a couple of years ago and put out an album for our 40th anniversary. And, at least we have something, and we have some film clips of us playing live, and those will always be great memories. So, Johnny Boy, wherever you are.
Cheers to them all. Yep. Cheers to the X-Men.
Yep.
So then you got obviously you worked for a long time at Modern Drummer.
Yes, I was at Modern Drummer for a good 25 plus years. I I just started off as a, freelancing for them. I was the artist liaison at all the festivals, every festival except for the first one, which I was invited to, and then I saw what it was like. And long story short, Ron Spagnati, God rest his soul, he saw something in me, I guess, and I knew a lot of the artists that were playing all the time because either from studio work or friends. I had a lot of friends in the business, and I was the artist liaison for all those years at the festival, and then he offered me a job at the magazine, and he took me under his wing for 5 years until he passed away. And then once he passed away, Modern Drummer was still Modern Drummer, but it wasn't the same. It just wasn't the same anymore without Ron there. And Ron was the one who mentored me and hired me, and he was my boss. So after he left, I felt that, I never had another boss. There really wasn't a boss per se. And, I just kind of did my own thing. And I started working full time, and I did that for a good 15 years, commuting from Brooklyn to New Jersey. So I paid my dues until I started working from home about 10 years ago. And then 2 years ago, we got a new publisher that I brought on, made him the deal and everything like that. But the pandemic kind of hit everyone hard, and I don't think he was able to survive that, unfortunately. And I just decided that things were not going in the direction that I thought that Ron would have liked, or I didn't like it myself. So I left. I quit because I had people calling my house complaining about things, and I couldn't take it anymore because I had nothing to do with the business end of how the magazine was run, about subscriptions and all of that, and it got chaotic, and it just started getting a bad reputation. It was bad to be associated with Modern Drummer, and because I was the face of the magazine, which I never wanted to be, but it just happened that way, I was getting most of the blame. So I had to get away. So I quit. And then a couple of days later, I've always been friends with the people at DW, Don Lombardi and John Good. I knew them actually even before I worked for Modern Drummer. And Don was very close to Ron and John. And they called and said, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm not sure. I'd like to keep doing what I do. So they hired me 2 days later. So I've been at Drum Channel now. So come on over and subscribe to Drum Channel. Put Billy, Billy 0, Billy 30, Billy 30, and get 30% off now before the end of the year.
There you go. That was my next question, was going to roll into the Drum Channel. And yeah, I mean, Billy, for those of you who don't know, Billy does a podcast on Drum Channel. I think he's got at least 2 seasons now. Lots of really quality drummers that he's done it with. Of course, as you mentioned, the DW family. I've known those guys a long time as well. I took the tour a few times. As a drum maker, while talking with John Good is it's an experience.
Yeah,
he is.
Yeah, you as a drum builder, you can appreciate the challenges, and it's not nowadays. Everybody's making drums and making some good quality drums, in their garage. But back in the day, there was something. It wasn't so easy to be a drum manufacturer. But one thing I want to clear up, that I like to clear up, because Don Lombardi, who's half with John Good, that owned DW and Gretsch and LP and Klingeln, and now Roland is involved. That has nothing really to do with Drum Channel. That's Don Lombardi's baby. So a lot of people, were wishing me happy 50 years. Congratulations, because DW just celebrated 50 years. And everybody, I work for DW, but I love those guys, and I play DW, but I work for Drum Channel, so it's different. I don't work for DW. So don't call me for an endorsement. I can't help you there. I could put you on my
Yeah,
podcast every week, but I have nothing to do with DW.
yeah. It is. Drum channel is. A lot of people can get that confused that it is DW when
But it's
it's
not.
an offshoot.
Yeah, and it's not a bad thing to be associated with DW because John and Don are so well respected in this business, and Don comes the closest, his attitude and his vision. That's why him and Ron Spignotti got along so well. I mean, they're the same people. They're cut from the same cloth, and great businessmen. Very compassionate people, and you know, that's the only other boss I would accept. So I'm happy to be there.
That's a good boss to have, as I say. Don, I know a few people that work there. Thomas Mitchell, my good friend, he works with DW as well. So yeah, I mean, I have nothing but positive things to say about all the DW family and of course their drums. But yeah, the drum channel, anyone who doesn't really know, I mean, they're YouTube, and you'll see the drum channel stuff. They've got everything from Terry Bozzio to Chad Smith. Just the list of drummers that they have on there.
Thomas Lang. I mean, it's the greatest drummers in the world. They've all been on and continue to be on Drum Channel. Drum Channel has some really cool stuff, and they're very ahead of the digital market, right? Right now they're on top of the whole digital scene. So that's where everything seems to be going because there is no more magazine. Modern Drummer, there's no more magazine. So, it's a different world. It's just a different way of doing things, and it's a different world. But yeah, Drum Channel is, and like you say, Terry Bozzio. I know you know Terry a long time. He even plays your drums.
Yeah, was there at DW and with John, and he's like, "Let me walk you into the back here," and he showed me Terry's monster kit. This was when he was just getting it started, and it had a couple of my things in there, and I just, yeah, just that made my day, my life. I mean, it might not be playing percussion with Ringo, but for me, that was that was a big bucket list thing for me. Really fabulous.
Oh man, Terry was an innovator. He was the first person I went to see Missing Persons back in the day in the '80s, and he built his own electronic drum kit on this rack, and it was just it just blew my mind. It was something I have never seen before, and I had loved the records, and then the live show was just incredible, and it was a lot different from him playing with Jeff Beck and Frank Zappa. Missing Persons was his kind of like pop days, but that's what drummers. It's good to have songs on the radio as well as be one of the greatest drummers in the world and have all those chops. So that was a good period. And then I got to know Terry, of course. He played. I'll tell you one thing. He played the Modern Drummer Festival with that kit when he first got that huge kit. And when they rolled it out, the kit got a 5-minute standing ovation before Terry even came out on the stage.
Amazing. Yeah, it's like, what's he do with all those drums? Does he need all that? It's like if you've seen him play it, you know that he needs every piece that's there to perform the compositions that he's performing. And yeah. you sit there and you just, the first time I saw him, yeah, it absolutely blew my mind.
He's so musical, so he plays music, that all those drums, he uses every single one because they're all tuned differently. There are pitches and his ostinatos that he does that he made famous. I mean, so it's like having 4 drummers. So if there were 4 drummers, there would be that many drums.
Exactly. And now my next question is, you just did a rock fantasy camp, and was it Alan White? How did that tie in? Because one of I think my third album was Yes Tormato.
Well, I just did. I've been doing the rock and roll fantasy camp for the last 20 or 25 years. They just celebrate their anniversary. There's a great film out that shows you what the camp is about. Now there's a book that just came out because they started an organization, foundation, which is going to help people. But I've been doing the camp, co-hosting the camp, and performing at the camp for years. And this year, it was here. This past couple of weeks, it was here in New York. So I got to go. It's only 7 miles from my house. I went back and forth and spent a lot of time at the camp. And in my section that I did on Saturday afternoon, I played with the superstar band both nights on Friday and Sunday. Thank you to Vinny Appice for that, because Vinny was supposed to play with Joe Vitale, and he let me do it. He gave me, he let me do it both times. So thank you, Vinny. And we had a good time. And I did on my drum hang. I always like to call it a drum hang because it's not a master class, because I don't teach people how to play. People already know how to play. I never believe in like sitting down and I'm not one to explain what I do, but stories or have special guests, that's always been my thing. So we did a little tribute to Alan White, because Alan was a very, very big part of the fantasy camp for a lot of years, probably 20 years. And I've known Alan since he played the Modern Drummer Festival. That's when I first met him, and I think that was when Owner of a Lonely Heart came out. So he had electronics, and he was just getting into that whole sound. But back in the day, I was a Yes. I appreciated Yes, and when Bill Bruford was in, of course, and then Alan came in, it changed a little bit. But I was more of an Alan White fan because of the work he did with George Harrison on All Things Must Pass, and then the work he did with John Lennon on Instant Karma and Imagine, and the Imagine album, which if anybody sees the making of that, I mean, you see Alan, right there in the studio, and you don't even realize it's the same person. But Alan was such a beautiful person, and his wife Gigi came to the camp, and I basically, we just said some nice things, and people shared stories and memories about him, and we hope he was there in spirit. And I'll say one thing, because Liberty DeVito was supposed to come by, but he couldn't make it at the last minute. And everybody was kind of like, their eyes opened up when I told them the story. And Liberty has told it many times, but for those who don't know, he was a big Alan White fan. And in It's Only Rock and Roll, the Billy Joel song, those tom fills that he does, he took in inspiration from Alan White on Instant Karma. So a lot of people were freaking out that day when I said that. They never put two and two together, and they were like, oh yeah. So now every time you hear It's Only Rock and Roll, you're going to think of Alan as well, because of those drum fills. So God bless you. I see my good friend Jerry Shirley from Humble Pie is on. Hey, Jerry. Another good friend of mine, big influence on me growing up.
There you go. And you also just saw
Brian Fraser Moore, who's playing with Pink right now. Hello, Brian. He's going to be Brian's going to be on my podcast. I had Jerry on the podcast. Brian's coming up. But, I've been blessed. I've really been blessed to have a lot of good friends in the business.
And I just saw that Drumbitious Myrna, she said that she had just met Vinny a couple weeks ago. Vinny Appice, as you said, correct. It's not I saw him, gosh, in the 80s many times with Dio, because I was a big Dio fan. So, great stuff. Maybe.
Yeah, him and Carmine do a great show together, the two brothers. It's like a comedy drum battle act, and it's they've been doing it for years. And I saw that recently, not too long ago. They were back at the cutting room, and they do a great thing together, because Vinny played with John Lennon. You know, he played with John Lennon when he was a kid, and he did hand claps. He played drums with Mark Rivera and John Colbert on that band when they did with all the Mask. I think Tony Levin was on bass. But then he played hand claps. He happened to be in the studio for whatever gets you through the night. So Vinny's been around that scene as well. So he always, you know, we tease Carmine because yes, Carmine did play with a lot of great people, but he didn't get to play with John Lennon.
There you go. That brother will have over brother forever there. That's great. I'll have to look for that on YouTube. The brothers Appice jamming together. I'm sure there's something on there.
Yeah, well, they have the mask. They wear those masks where it's like a two-faced mask, which was John's little statement that he was making. But you know, it's a great. That was a really good period of time.
My next question is the Raven Drum Foundation. Now I see is that Rick Allen from Def Leppard? Is that his organization or is he just a part of it?
No, that's an organization that he and his wife Lauren Monroe started over 20 years ago, and it's such a great, beautiful thing that they do for veterans. The last couple of years we've been doing it for veterans. I was involved for the first time last year, and then I was involved again this year, and I'm honored to be. Now I'm on the board. They asked me to be on the board at the foundation, and it's just I mean, we filmed this unbelievable drum circle, prayer meditation ceremony, and that's going to be shown right now as we speak. It's being shown in all the VA hospitals all over the world, and I think it's going to be streamed for the public to see. But Lauren, who's a healer, and you know, she's helped a lot of people, and Rick, of course, what he went through. He met a lot of veterans who lost limbs, you know, in the war, and you know, it's just a shame that here in this country we forget about the veterans sometimes. You know, it's a holiday, but you know, we forget to really give thanks, and they need help. You know, you can't go fight a war and then come back and, you know, live your life like you never had that experience. It's impossible. It's like I don't know. So suicide rate is so high. I never knew this till it was brought to my attention. You know, veterans commit suicide almost every day. A veteran, you know, commits suicide. And that we have to stop that. I mean, we have to stop suicide and you know, help suicide prevention no matter what. But for veterans, after what they've done for us, and to feel that they're not cared for or loved, or you know, they have problems, no, that shouldn't be done. So they started this foundation, and we have an auction that's going on right now called 12 Drummers Drumming till December. Started on Veterans Day, and it goes till December 12th, where I called up a bunch of buddies. Rick called up a bunch of his buddies, and then all our buddies who are on, they called their buddies, and we got a whole bunch of people to donate some really cool items. And they get auctioned off, and all that money goes to the veterans and suicide prevention. So it's a wonderful cause, and it's only going to get bigger and bigger every year. And I applaud them. And Rick is, you know, I tease him all the time that I'm going to ruin his rock star reputation, because he's probably the sweetest. I mean, Rick is a rock star. You know, I have a lot of friends that are rock stars, but Rick is a real rock star. Def Leppard is, you know, hundreds of millions of records, and you know, he is just the sweetest guy, and Lauren is so sweet, and Laurie Baker, who runs it, and Jason, who's also on the board. It's just a great organization, and I applaud them. So I can't, you know, I'd do anything for Rick.
Brilliant. Yeah, I was going to say, you know what? I think I need to get you one of my hi-hat tambourines for Rick, because with his, you know, the way that he plays, you know, his feet do a lot of work for his one arm. So, yeah. I thank you for sending me some
toys, and I mean the wood. I mean, because you know, the wood is gorgeous, and I could tell a lot of love went into making these. And of course, these go on top of the hi-hat, and there's different variations that you could use. But I had showed you how I like to use it. I like to use it as a shaker, as a tambourine shaker. You know, I've played on a couple of tracks where I've used it like that. So pretty cool. Thank you for saying that.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Actually, my 10th question always comes from a follower, and my friend Brian King, who does my websites and my PaulE drum imaging here, and he came up with that logo for me as well. He wanted to ask you about what you thought of the PaulE drums, and you beat me to it there.
There you go. Well, thank you, Brian. Nice logo.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know you. I don't know your real name. Tell everyone your real name, because everybody was like, "Whose show are you going to be on?" I said, "PaulE," and they were like, "PaulE who?" And I was like, "PaulE Drums." They were like, "Yeah, but what's his name?" I was like, "That's a good question. Yeah, what's his name?"
I'm like Cher. I'm just PaulE. No, Edmonds is my last name, and the way I came up with my name when I started making my drums, I was like, what can I name? Yeah, I got to have a catchy name. And I was signing all my drums hand signature, so that PaulE, instead of writing Edmonds, which is my last name, my signature was PaulE. And my friend was like, you should just be PaulE Drums. And I was like, Paul Edmonds, PaulE Drums. That'll work. That's catchy enough. So yeah, that originally was my signature. And then so that I could get my registered trademark, patented trademark, I had to have the proper logo. And that's what that logo that I'm now stamping. Instead of hand signing every drum, now I stamp them.
Stamp. So let me ask you a question. Because I'm used to asking the question. So let me ask you a question. Can I ask you a question? Okay, we're going to 11.
Number 11 is your
question. 11. So what made you get into making drums? Like, what was your passion, and when did you start making drums? How old were you?
Well, I mean, I started out, like, as you said, young, playing drums as a kid. I remember making my first practice pad with my dad because, it was too expensive to buy a practice pad. So we took an old, my brother's old music stands, and we took the top off of it, and we made our own practice pad. And I started my drumming. I was taking my drum lessons, and I was also singing at the time. I'd always been into singing. And my drum teacher at the time, I forget what, we did some Doors songs, and I did my Jim Morrison. And he's like, wow, you're really good. I know a band that's looking for they're a Doors cover band, and their Jim Morrison guy just left. And, is that something you'd be into? And at the time I was 16, and I was like, yeah, I give it a try. Of course, these dudes were all in their 30s. So I did that for a bit. Riders on the Storm. I really had that down, and I had the good hair. Back then when I had hair, I really looked the part. And and as my drum teacher said, he's like, well, if you want to be in the music business, he's like, being out front. He says, I love being behind the kit and driving the bus. He says, but being out front is where, everybody sees you. It's a pressure deal out there, and, everyone's eyes are on you, throughout the show. And, I did that band, and then I did a couple other bands. And then I got into other different things. So I stopped performing. And I'd actually, I was a carpenter for a lot of years. And I just moved out to New Mexico, and I bought a bunch of killer tools from a guy who was getting divorced, who sold me all of his tools for $100 so that his wife wouldn't be able to get any of the proceeds to all these tools. And I got these tools, and I met a guy who was making drums. He made all, djembes out of like pallets and stuff like that, very organic, old hippie guy with hardly any teeth. And he was like, hey, can I use your tools to make a drum? So this would have been in like 96. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll make one along with you, because I've been a drummer for, my whole life, and, I'm a carpenter and make a woodworker, so this would be, pretty cool. So my first drum I made was a Purple Heart drum. He made his drum out of pallet wood, and I made mine out of Purple Heart.
Beautiful.
And yeah. Oh, it was tough to work too. I didn't know at the time how tough it was to work.
That's a hard wood, right? That's a very
real hard. And, yep, and it has a tendency to burn when you're sanding it. So it's a long process. But I made this drum, and he basically looked at me and he's like, you sure you never made a drum before? I was like, no, this is my first drum, man, and like I said, I've been woodworking and, doing all kinds of stuff. I made golf clubs for years, custom golf clubs as well. And he looked at me and he said, you need to be a drum maker. And I was like, damn straight, that's a good idea. So at that point, I decided I was going to be a drum maker and I'd make my own design of drums. And I started making djembes and bongos, and I came up with my wood heads like you have on there. So all of my drums from 97, maybe 98 on, they all had wooden heads, djembes. So like the djembe that Terry Bozzio has in his original Monster kit, that was a wood-headed djembe that was in perfect E note. So he used that in his setup. Greg Bissonette, I gave him a set of bongos, and he also has one of the hi-hat tambourines like you have. And that would have been at NAMM's show maybe in 2002, a long time ago. So I was doing really good. I had a lot of great shops. All of us drummers, we always love going into the music shops. I recently just got some more stuff into, which is one of the greatest shops and the greatest retailers of drums, Stan and Jerry, on the planet.
Yeah, I love those guys.
But around 2008, when the economy went down, then I couldn't really do the drums anymore. I got more into doing my soccer coaching, because I could make some money doing soccer coaching. So I was doing that, and then I met my wife, and I got married, and I stopped making the drums, and I moved to London, and I was doing the coaching gig. Still had people playing my drums, asking me, how can I get your drums? It's like, well, you got to find someone that has one, because I'm not making them right now. Moved to South Africa, and I made a couple drums there, because again, I had people that, come on, I need a drum, I need that hi-hat tambourine like Bozzio had. And it's like, well, let me see what I can do. And then I decided, gosh, it was during the pandemic, I was getting a lot of interest from people again, why aren't you making the drums anymore? At the very beginning of the pandemic. And I was like, I got to start doing it again. So I started doing my drums again down there in South Africa, and then moved back to the UK and really, got back into it. So, the past year and a half, 2 years, I've been kicking out drums, and finding shops, and new endorsees. I just had Pick Withers from Dire Straits.
Yep. Yep.
Just bought one of the mini Bonnie. He just bought that in up in Liverpool, because in Liverpool at ADC Drums, they're carrying my stuff. So yeah, I'm working right now on an Amazon page so I can sell some more stuff. Boy, that's a pain, I got to tell you.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work dealing with Amazon.
It's not easy, especially these days with the cost of everything going up. I'm sure, wood has gone up just like everything else has gone up, and, materials, and it's not easy. It's a hard thing. So, but, you have a passion, and you're not going to, you have that passion. So I'm happy that you're back doing what you love.
Thanks, Billy. I'm happy too, and I know that a lot of other people are happy that I'm back doing it, because I've got a lot of new guys who've been asking for drums for a long time that I haven't got stuff to, and they said, gosh, Fredo Ortiz, who used to play with the Beastie Boys, he now plays with Los Lobos.
Yep.
So he's got some stuff from me as well. But yeah, it feels good to be back, because as the drumming community is a real tight group.
Yeah.
There's lots of really, really sweet, good, real people in there.
We say it all the time, and people go, "Oh, that's because you guys are drummers." But then when everybody hangs out with us, they all say the same thing. They can't believe that's what the festival was all about. It was just one big love fest. Every drummer, I don't think we've ever had one festival that we did that the drummers didn't all get along and stay in touch after that. Same thing with the Raven Drum Foundation. We started this little thread, and we thought it would die out. And we all talk to each other. There's like 12 of us on there, and we all talk to each other almost every day. And, sending stuff back and forth, even if it's just a heart or it's just to say hey. And there's no other community like the drumming community. We all support each other, which is a great, great thing. And, before we go, because I know you got to wrap up, Brenda Hawkins just came on, I saw, and that's the late, great Roger Hawkins from Muscle Shoals, the drummer, one of the most recorded drummers of all time. His wife, Brenda. So I want to say hello to Brenda. Roger, me and Liberty do a show on because I have a couple of shows on Drum Channel, and I bring it up because it's called Billy's Bubble. And we did Roger Hawkins, where me and him sit down, and we used to do this off camera. So sorry, let's do it on camera. We just sit down and we just play a couple of songs by someone, and we honor that drummer through that podcast. So we did Roger. And the last one we did was Gary Chester. So hello, Brenda. And I see my buddy Pete. Hey, Pete. So I want to, thank you for doing this and letting me babble a little bit.
Yeah, I had a feeling, because I know, like you said, you're on the other side of it. So I was like, what, I got to ask Billy, because this way he gets to do some talking as opposed to, popping the questions and asking. And, I sort of figured you'd dig it. And to anyone who tuned in, thank you so much. Feel free to follow me. My guys, follow Billy. Like I said, the drum community is strong, and, the beat goes on, as I like to say. The beat goes on.
Yeah. And for a limited time, I have to say it before the end of the year, because it's not going to happen next year. Get 30% off on Drum Channel if you want to subscribe. It's really, it's a very, very, you're learning from the best drummers in the world, and we're going to bring some more entertainment there and some fun. So it's going to be a little bit of everything, and, drumchannel.com, and if you put BILLY 30, Billy 30, I say, you know, Billy 30, and you'll get 30% off. So might as well take advantage of it now.
Yep, sounds like a good Christmas present to give to somebody as well, right? Sign them up for a drum channel.
Come on. And thank you again, PaulE. And happy holidays to everybody. Safe, healthy, happy.
Yep.
Let's make this world a better place. All of us together. It's up to us. It's one world. So everyone do their job. All you have to do is be kind. Send out positive energy every day and be kind. Do something for somebody instead of worrying about, you know, something being done for you. Let somebody else do something for you, and you do something for somebody else. And make the world a better place.
Yeah, and we'll leave with Ringo, as Ringo would say, peace and love.
Thank you, everyone.
Cheers. Thank you, Billy.
Bye-bye.
All the best. Thanks, everyone, for joining.
Thank
Cheers.